mine out. I should have.
Yeah, we can see the chair. Slide.
It's gonna look this one too, Jason, but I figured it would. Did you send a copy to Julie? Okay, okay, because she's probably seen some, she could just probably have some input too, which would be good.
I think I got busy at the tech meeting. I don't think I
Right.
sent it out. So,
Okay, oh, okay, I was gonna say I had it, so I guess I
yeah,
forgot.
I brought
picked up
hard
a copy.
copies, but I don't think I ever sent out.
Right, okay.
I'll do that after this.
We're small tonight.
Mark, is it just jail on the phone?
I'm sorry?
Is it just jail on the phone?
Yes.
We're going to go ahead and call our meeting to order. If we can all rise and say the pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Jane, if we can get a roll call.
Steve,
Yes.
Angie,
Yes.
Robin,
Yes.
Brad,
Yes.
Jill.
Yes.
Kathleen.
All right, do we have any visitors? The Western Justice Board, none? We do want to welcome, is it, can you state your name?
Oh, Kathy Griffith.
Kathy Griffith?
Yeah.
From the Effingham Daily News, so we want to welcome you. Do we have anybody who wanted to?
No, we did not.
Okay. So we'll go ahead and move on to the financial report with Mr. Fox.
Okay, we ended the month of July with fund balances. The net fund balance was $21,605,222.01. The four operating funds made up $15,564,420.18. And of that total, HLS funds made up $4,314,014.46. Month of July, we received revenue in the Ed Fund locally, $152,208.87. We did not receive any funding from the state in July. And federally, we received $155,426.07. Expenses over $5,000 are broke out separately inside of your report. And our recommendations this month would be to reimburse the interest account in the amount of $48.45. And for the payment of bills totaling $1,463,935.67. Of those bills, HLS projects made up $957,571.09.
Are there any questions for Mr. Fox in regards to the financials?
Yeah, on the staff screening for Sarah Bush, what kind of screening was that?
That's the physical that we have to get for bus drivers. So we pay for our bus drivers to go have their annual physical. And now it's Sarah Bush, where it used to be Benuti Clinic, but Sarah Bush popped up. So.
Are there any other questions? Okay. And hearing none, we would need a motion to approve the financial report to reimburse the interest account in the amount of $1,463,935.67 and the payment of bills in the amount of $48.45.
Yes. Interest account is $48.45. Payment of bills is whatever the 1 million. I don't have it in front of me. $1,463 or $463,935.67.
I should have caught that one. Okay. It's okay. That's okay. So we would just need that motion then. I'll repeat it one more time. The payment of bills in the amount of $1,463,935.67 and to reimburse the interest account in the amount of $48.45.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Steve. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Second, Brad. Roll call?
Angie,
Yes.
Robin,
Yes.
Brad,
Yes.
Jill,
Yes.
Jane, yes. Steve,
Yes.
Okay, moving on to the consent agenda. In our packet, we had minutes for our regular board meeting on July 27th. We had a facilities and transportation meeting on June 16th, a technology meeting on June 18th, technology meeting on July 30th, technology on August 7th, curriculum August 6th. We had a fundraiser that was listed on page 76. Couple things from the EHS band boosters. They're going to be selling trash bags and soap, popcorn and butter braids, and Monocle's Pizza throughout the school year. And the EHS football cheerleaders are going to be selling face masks to support the cheer program. Are there any questions in regards to the consent agenda? And hearing none, we would need a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Robin. Do we have a second?
Second it.
Second, Brad. Roll call?
Robin,
Yes.
Brad,
Yes.
Jill,
Yes.
Jane, yes. Steve,
Yes.
Angie.
Yes. Moving on to new business, we have a second reading on the adoption of policies. They started on page 77 and went through 128. Did you have anything in regards to that?
No.
Okay. So this would be the, obviously the second reading. So the recommendation is to to adopt the following board policies as presented. I'm not going to read those all. They're all listed there for you. So if we can get a motion to approve the policies as presented.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Steve. Do we have a second?
A second.
Second, Robin. Roll call.
Brad,
Yes.
Jill,
Yes.
Jane, yes. Steve,
Yes.
Angie,
Yes.
Robin.
Yes.
Okay, moving on to the hazardous bus route resolution.
Sure. Every year, the district has to pass a resolution that our hazardous routes have not changed. And basically years ago, we did an application for crossing railroad tracks, things like that. Students who would have to cross a hazardous area in order to get to school. We can transport those kids and receive extra reimbursement for that. Used to be you had to pass a resolution, submit it to the state. Now you just have to pass a resolution, keep it in-house in case they ever audit. So we would just ask, nothing's changed on our hazardous routes or anything, so that we just accept or that we pass this resolution. We'll keep it in-house in case we get audited. So
Are there any questions? And hearing none, we need a motion to approve the hazardous route resolution for the 2021 school year.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Brad. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second, Steve. Roll call.
Jill,
Yes.
Jane, yes. Steve,
Yes.
Angie,
Yes.
Robin,
Yes.
Brad.
Yes.
We're going to go ahead and move on to the EHS community service hours modification.
Okay, because of all the changes of situations, Mr. Roberts brought forth proposal, the one to bring before the board. So he's here to kind of talk about the community service and trying to modify that a little bit, so.
Okay, so just to bring you up to speed, if you don't know, currently students, high school seniors are required to complete 12 hours of community service. This varies to working with nonprofits and really volunteering their time. So there's a lot of different ways they can earn those community service hours. last spring, whenever we as a state went to remote learning, one of the governor's proclamations told us we had to suspend those at the time. So any senior who didn't have those, all 12 of those were not required to complete them. The idea behind that made sense. It means that students are not necessarily out and amongst other people. And really the opportunities for those community service hours are pretty slim right now. So I worked with Mr. Hammer, who is the coordinator for those community service hours. And what we would like to do is for this year, those community service hours would be basically all designed through his government class, which every senior is required to take. They would be closer to doing a viewing of an online board meeting and then making some type of report on it. Basically, he's got a whole series of types of things. Students have to pick a certain number of them to satisfy that community service requirement. In this way, and all of those are designed either be virtual or online, but nothing that has to be necessarily in person. So in that way, we're not encouraging students to go out and not social distance, so to speak, but yet we're still trying to keep them committed to the idea of understanding and being a part of their community. So that's why we've made the proposal.
So to clarify, it'd still be 12 hours,
Yeah.
just in a different form.
Are there any questions? Anyone? No? Okay, so we would need a motion to approve modification to the community service graduation requirement for the 2021 school year.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Robin. Do we have a second?
Second it.
Second, Brad. Roll call.
Jane, yes. Steve?
Yes.
Angie?
Yes.
Robin?
Yes.
Brad?
Yes.
Jill?
yes,
We're going to go ahead and move on to the calendar for the 2021 school year.
After the district adopted its 2021 school year, the governor signed into law that November 3rd, election day, would be a holiday. There's no way to waive that. Every school district will be out. And so we need to show that on our calendar. Basically, that moves everything back a day. So we're just bringing that back to amend the calendar to include that. I don't know that this will be the last time we amend the calendar. But that's what's in front of us tonight, in front of the board tonight, is just the November 3rd date will be a holiday.
We need a motion to approve the amended 2021 calendar as presented.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Steve. Do we have a second? Second, Robin. Roll call.
Steve?
Yes.
Angie?
Yes.
Robin?
Yes.
Brad?
Yes.
Jill?
yes,
Jane, yes.
Okay, moving on to the 21 tentative budget.
Okay. And this is a tentative budget, proposed tentative budget. What we do, the process is in August every year, we come up with a proposed tentative budget. We present it, and then we go back and we relook at the numbers between now and September. And in September, we have a hearing to start the board meeting where the public can come in and talk about the proposed budget and give any feedback there. And then later in the meeting, we approve a budget. So the numbers this year, inside your packet, I included what says page 5. So that's kind of a summary page out of the budget. And if you look at that page and you look at lines 3 and line 21, you will see the beginning fund balances for each of those funds, and then the expected fund balance as of June 30th, 2021. And I'll talk a little bit about those. The 4 main funds I'll talk about are the operating funds. Okay, so the education fund, O&M, transportation, and working cash. Working cash. Okay, those are the 4 funds we can control the most. So in the education fund this year, we are budgeting for a deficit of $681,813. Now, in that, we also build in contingency funds every year that we don't plan on spending, but we want to have money in there as a just in case. But what we do have budgeted in there is we have already contracted salary increases for both certified and non-certified staff members. We have technology upgrades, and we pay technology out of both the ed fund and the O&M fund, depending on what it is. The really big, large purchases, a lot of times we'll pay those out of O&M. If we're upgrading servers, switches, things along those lines, we pay for those out of ed. It just depends on what we're doing. So we've included some of those as well. We are piloting a math series, so we will be purchasing a new math series for use district-wide. We also will be purchasing the new student information software. Okay, so that will be Infinite Campus we'll be looking at next month, as well as the addition of the blended preschool classroom we'll be taking on as well. So we've budgeted in a lot of items in there, and we also, so we always plan for the worst, and then we spend it the way we need to. So what we are looking at as an estimated ending fund balance as of June 30th in the ed fund would be $8,803,229 would be remaining in that fund at the end of the year. The O&M fund, we again are estimating a deficit of $275,848. Again, we budgeted in a lot of contingency there because that pays for all of our mechanical systems and all of our buildings, building upkeep, lots of different things there. Included in there are contracted staff salary increases. Included in there also are the transfer of funds we're going to talk about from the working cash fund into that fund to pay for both things at the junior high as well as possible technology purchase. And then also we have in there an increase in revenue and expense for TIF money that we'll be receiving from the city through our contract with them for work at the junior high. The O&M estimated fund balance on June 30th would be $1,924,186 if all revenues are received and all expenses are spent. So in the transportation fund, we are estimating a surplus of $94,084. Again, this is a good example of contingency funds is we budget in additional vehicles. A couple of years ago, we had a driver's ed van get rear-ended. No fault of the student, no fault of the district, but the van was totaled. Insurance-wise, we only received $9,000 for the van, but to buy a new one was $28,000. So we had to have contingency funds in there. That was something we didn't foresee happening, but we had funds in there to pay for that. So that's kind of what I mean when I say we have contingency. Possible in there is we're paying for the 7 buses we're receiving this year, and then we may look at some additional buses. We also have contracted staff salary increases, and then we have a few building upgrades over there where we're fixing some of the garage doors, replacing some panels, painting those, and making it a little bit nicer. So our estimated transportation fund balance on June 30th would be $2,937,495. Working cash rounds out the 4 operating funds, and it'll show a decrease in FY21 of $720,313. And that is due to the transfer we would like to have from working cash into O&M, and that will be used to pay for the upgrades at the junior high, the site upgrades, as well as some building upgrades, and then also for the possible technology purchase we're going to talk about later on. So the ending fund balance for the O&M fund on June 30th would be $2,103,335. Working cash, I'm sorry, did I say? Oh, sorry, working cash fund. Thank you for catching that. We also have the other funds in the bond and interest fund. We're projecting an increase of $60,463 for this fiscal year. That would give us an ending fund balance of $220,158. In the municipal retirement fund, Fund 50, we are projecting a decrease or a deficit of $79,470. If you remember when we did the levy last year, we planned on lowering that levy a little bit so that we could use up some of our fund balance in there. Since it can only be used for one thing, we didn't want to continue to build that fund balance. We wanted to use a little bit of that up. So this year will be a little bit of that. And then in the tort fund, we're projecting a deficit of $57,366. And we did the same thing with tort last year. We lowered that levy just a little bit to use a little bit of the fund balance there. So, and then lastly, HLS, we should next year be coming toward the end of the junior high project, and we use a large portion of that up. And so we're projecting a deficit in the HLS Fund 90 of $6 million. $27,063. And so we should have a expected fund balance on June 30th of $141,064 at the end of the year. So that's kind of it in a nutshell. That's a lot of numbers I'm throwing at you. What questions can I answer for you?
Year over year, Jason, how does it compare to the budget from last year?
Every year, you'll see deficit numbers up there. But if you look at especially like the last 3-4 years, we've ended in the black in pretty much every fund. We budget things in there. We always try to underestimate revenue and overestimate expenses so that at the end of the year, we'll be in a better spot than what we plan on at the start of the year. So, and Mr. Doan can speak to that too, but I think we're in a pretty good spot. I mean, last year at the end of the year when things shut down, spending shut down too. And so we're going to experience some of that purchasing that we should have been doing last year at the end of the year coming into this year. So that's why some of these deficits look bigger than what they normally do. But overall, I think we're okay. So.
Thank you.
Any other questions? And hearing none, we would need a motion to approve the fiscal year 21 tentative budget resolution.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Brad, is there a second?
I'll second.
Second, Steve, roll call?
Steve,
Yes.
Angie,
Yes.
Robin,
Yes.
Brad,
Yes.
Jill,
yes,
Jane, yes.
Moving on to the transfer of funds from working cash to O&M.
Okay, I'll talk a little bit about this one. Last fiscal year budget, we were talking about transferring $600,000 from working cash to O&M. Every couple of years, we've done that to take care of some larger projects. Things we've done in the past are the tennis court project was one of those items. The parking lot down at Central was another one of those items. And then every couple of years, we try to transfer more. Well, we were planning on doing it last fiscal year, but we did not do that because we did not want the revenue to come in one fiscal year and the bills came in in another fiscal year. So we've held off on doing that. So we got a lot of the bills for the junior high paid after June, which will be in July, which will be this. So in that discussion of having $600,000, we were going to use some for technology upgrades and then also for junior high. Well, from the technology committee, some of that information we've been sharing, we've that committee has moved forward and made some recommendations. And so when those recommendations came forward, we were talking about those, and Jason and I figured out, we got to figure out how we got to pay for that, if that's what we're going to do. So we brought the idea of transferring $975,000 from working cash, which $500,000 would be towards the junior high project and or those non-HLI items. Now, previous to this board, when those bonds were sold, there are some items that were in the project that were non-HLS. That means they weren't covered in the bonding. So we're talking about the underpass, that portion of it, the actual front part of the junior high, the steps, those types of things. Those were two big items that were not covered, that at the time, the decision was, instead of pulling them out and bidding them on their own, we felt, and from the architect standpoint and the board, was those costs would be higher if we did it by themselves rather than in a big project. So from day one, we felt like we knew we had close to $750 to $1 million of work that wasn't going to get covered. That was going to be covered over a few years from O&M or from our regular funds. So the $500,000 will be used towards that. And then if the board moves forward with the discussion on the technology upgrade, then that would cover 100% of the initial cost for the technology purchase. So that's where the money would go. And kind of spelled out in your packet there how that fund would be replenished through the local tax over 2 or 3 years with interest. And I also shared with you what the expected balances and some of the historical balances were for working cash. And we're within those frameworks of what we've had in the past. So it's a way to cover some costs and also make if the board decides to make a big investment in regards to technology, and do that in a fiscal manner that is pretty prudent, to be honest, and one that's been used in the district previously for other items. So that's kind of the idea in regards to the O&M. The money would go to from working cash to O&M, and then it's spent out of O&M moving forward.
Are there any questions? No? Okay. Do we need a motion to approve the resolution to transfer funds from the working cash to the operations and maintenance in the amount of $975,000?
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Robin, is there a second?
I'll second.
Second, Brad, roll call?
Angie,
Yes.
Robin,
Yes.
Brad,
Yes.
Jill,
yes,
Jane, yes, Steve.
Yes.
Moving on to the technology committee updates and recommendations.
Okay, I'll start and then I'll let Brad and Robin join in. I just won't go back that far. We've been talking about this process for months in regards to providing more devices in the district and possibly going to one-to-one and things like that. In a normal situation, there'd probably be more planning and thought process into that. However, the situation we're in, I think from the committee standpoint, we looked at trying to, the first option I think we talked about it last month, or no, we did in the committee, and we shared that information, is trying to get all the buildings up to at least 65 to 70% covered with devices, students. And so then we also looked at, okay, well, if we went 65 to 70%, what would it cost to cover everyone? And so that information shared from our last committee meeting, and moving forward, in essence, the district would be purchasing 1,250 laptops, and then also would be purchasing 160 iPads. iPads would be used for pre-K and kindergarten, and the laptops would be used from first grade through 12th. Now, if you add that on with the 410 laptops that the district purchased for assessment purposes, remember back in June, the district approved, or the board approved that recommendation, so we could, in a regular setting, continue with technology use in the classroom while having enough devices for assessment, state assessment, MAP assessment, student assessment, those types of items. And so adding those 410 plus what the buildings did have, and these 1,250 would end up where we would have in the district 2,353 laptops for use, which would cover, that's right at our enrollment, and then 280 total iPads that could be used for ELC and pre-K. Realistically, by order, if the board approved these and ordering these, we're looking at probably not till October getting them and getting them ready. Our goal would be for Thanksgiving with 1,250 items or devices. But this is a huge step for our district, and one the committee talked through. There's obviously some costs that are always with that type of an investment that maybe not are on black and white right now, but I think we feel comfortable with the initial cost covered by the working cash transfer that the district budgets funds every year for technology, whether it be replacement, whether it be continued upgrades, that we can cover that well from the district standpoint. It's the initial cost estimate that usually gets everybody. I don't know if there's any of the committee members want to add to. Again, these are estimates. We got a quote and we try to get these as low as possible. We're using $320 for a laptop plus a $15 for case, and then also $350 for an iPad. If we can get those that meet our need, that are cheaper, then obviously we try to be as frugal, but we want to make sure we get what will work with students. And then that means going through in the process of having some more discussion about, do you charge for them? Do we have a fee? Those types of things will have to come. But the first step is whether you want to do this or not. And from the committee standpoint, I think everybody on the committee, in the committee and in the discussion was 100% behind moving forward. It's a game changer moving forward. And one of the other things, I'll just be real honest, was training of staff. And, because the teaching with the device is a little bit different than sometimes in a regular classroom. But the district's really stepped up and our staff have really stepped up in the last few months because of the spring and the training that's going on. We're in a much better position from a district standpoint, from a staff standpoint, of being able to implement and utilize these devices better. And those are things that we looked at from a committee standpoint. We're in a better situation that way, just overall, and it can be afforded. I think it's time to make that step. So that was the conversation. Anything to add?
Problem getting that many?
Pardon me?
Do you think there'll be any problem getting that many?
We can get them. It's just a matter of
Yeah,
time.
it's just gonna take time. So that's why we're not expecting them to be in till the end of October.
All of them at once?
Yeah.
Wow.
Have we received the ones that we ordered from May?
I just did a tracking on them today. They told me that by the end of August. And so they're supposed to be either Friday or Monday. Friday this week or Monday next week, they'll be in. So
And then the ones that we ordered in June?
those are the ones from June. The ones from May, we've already received.
Okay, we
Yeah.
got those.
The ones from June should be here this week, hopefully. Keep my fingers crossed. So.
I might add a couple of things. I think Brad and I would both agree that when we started down the path of talking about getting more devices, we didn't really anticipate we would end up 1-to-1. We were really hoping that we could get 2-to-1, where we would have one device for every 2 students, because at the time, that we thought that was probably all that we could afford, and so on and so forth. What we learned was that if we just bought enough that was still 2-to-1, we had to buy a better laptop because multiple students would be using it. Multiple users required us to buy an additional hard drive. So we were going to have to pay
$580.
$580 for each laptop to get to 50%, at least 50%. So that's when we started talking about, well, when you mean multiple users. So if it's a single user, how much is it? Well, if it's a single user, we don't have to purchase that additional. So we can get a single user laptop for $320. So not quite, half of what the other one was, but just the difference in cost was huge, because then we realized that we could get everybody just over 50%, maybe about 60%, and spend, let's see, $302,000. Or we could get 1-to-1, a laptop or an iPad for every student, and spend
77.
77. So that made us think, wait a minute, that, that's a lot of money. But in the big picture, the difference between those two just seemed 1-to-2, 1-to-1, half our kids or every kid. So that's when we said, this doesn't make any sense just to get them for half. We need to go towards equity for every student. So every student has the same opportunity. Doesn't matter what you have at home with your family, every student has a device. And I think that's what really pushed us over. And we also talked, as Mark mentioned, the professional development. We've said in the past that going to 1-to-1 would require a lot of training for our teachers in order to implement devices for every student. But in our tech meeting, we learned from the tech people and the people that are training that we probably have more scheduled now than we would have done if we had, in a normal year, an environment scheduled training just for 1-to-1 implementation. So that hurdle was gone. And then we learned we had the money. So put all that together, and it just didn't make any sense not to go ahead. So that's kind of, that was how we got there. We got to a place we really didn't expect, but we were glad to be there.
Will these, I'm just curious, will these devices, will we be able to carry any type of insurance?
I talked to our insurance carrier, and there's a couple of different options. One would be a inland marine, which makes it sound like it's boat insurance, but it's basically that, you know, if these devices, a large number get damaged, then they're covered. What we'll have to decide as a board is, do we want to carry individual insurance on each device, which will cost us a lot more, or do we want to say, okay, we're going to know that we're going to lose 20 devices a year, and the district's just going to eat that. You know, we could have a very low deductible, but the devices are only $320. So to pay for a $150 deductible, you're going to have a huge premium.
Right.
So we need to decide how we're going to do that. I've asked them to put together some different options for us on that, so you'll have something to look at. But what we'll do is we'll definitely carry an inland marine policy on them when they come back every year, so that in the summertime, if something happens, we don't want, you know, $800,000 in laptops being damaged. So.
And like I said, there's going to be other decisions on, do we do a tech fee?
Yeah.
You know, there's options where you could, you know, over the years, if they get them as a freshman, do they keep them when they leave? Are they even useful when they're leaving?
Right.
There's all sorts of things like that that need to be thought through. But the big question is whether the board wants to do this, and then we could.
From the hardware side, one thing, this is a big purchase all at once, but you're purchasing all the same model. So the goal is you only stock one set of parts then, and then we can stage the replacement over 3 years, and you can cannibalize some to keep others working longer so that you can stage your replacement over a longer time span. You know, so if you're going to buy them all at once, you want to buy all the same model so you can make that work over a period of time when you do your replacement. So this will help us by doing it this way. So
There are no doubt additional costs too that will come with the addition of all of these devices. One of the things that we did talk about with our tech people was that we would no doubt need some additional wireless access points in some buildings. Some have more than others, but in order for, you know, every room to have good access in the school, that might, you know, be something that we would definitely have to add. We also talked about the fact that given adding all of these devices to maintain, that we believe that we needed to consider hiring an additional tech person. We've already talked about the fact that they are pulled thin with the devices that we have, and the ones we were adding already was a big concern, but now to add all of these, we may need to consider, we talked about adding perhaps an entry-level tech person to that, to help with that too. So there are some additional expenses and considerations besides just purchasing the devices.
Brandon, do you have anything you want to add?
Yeah, I mean, they've both said very well the thoughts that I have. I don't think, you know, one-to-one is something that we started talking about whenever we were interested in coming onto the board. That was an initiative that I certainly believe wholeheartedly in. And we have a tremendously unique set of circumstances that put this to be the right time to make this happen. You know, where we can really invest in our students to give them the abilities they're going to need potentially after November. Hopefully it doesn't happen until after November if we have to go remote, but everybody can have a similar type of educational experience with the same type of device at home. But then the teachers, whenever they're delivering that opportunity to those students, it's not going to be this type of device works like this, that their personal device works like this. It'll be a consistent opportunity. And I think that's fantastic that we have the opportunity to do that. And it's, like I said, there's no better time than now to make this happen. You know, and as Robin said, we're going to go through and take a look at our environment, you know, to make sure that it can support these devices, because we're throwing a lot more devices on our network than we've got today. So we're going to do a professional site survey is what we're recommending to make sure that when we inundate our environment with all these devices, you still get a good user experience at the end of it. So,
And I don't want people to think, because we're talking about one-to-one devices and that we don't, I don't want people to think all of a sudden, all a student's gonna be doing is sitting, working on a laptop. And that the regular educational experiences and interactions with students and teachers isn't gonna take place, because that's not the case. Our kids already are using technology in the classroom. It's just that they're shuffling it from room to room, you know, to try to accommodate the needs. And some of the kids have to go into the library at junior high or high school in order to have access, because they don't have access at home, maybe to finish something up. Whereas kids that do have access can just take it home and do it at home. So this just kind of makes it an even playing field, makes access, makes it more accessible to the student. But that doesn't mean that the whole day from, you know, dawn to dusk is going to be setting looking at a computer.
Any other questions or comments? Okay.
Jill, have any questions?
Jill, I'm sorry, did you have any questions?
Oh, no, I don't. I'm really excited about this. I'll just interject that point. I'm excited because I feel like this is something that our district needs to move towards, and it's unfortunate that COVID has pushed us in this direction, but sometimes it's better to just jump in feet first and get it going. So I'm happy.
I agree with you, I am too. I think this is a really good direction to go to. So we would need a motion to purchase 1,250 laptops and 160 iPads at an estimated cost of $478,000.
I will make that motion.
Motion by Brad. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second, Robin. Roll call.
Robin,
Yes.
Brad,
Yes.
Jill,
Yes.
Jane, yes. Steve,
Yes.
Angie.
Yes. Okay, moving on to the document camera purchases.
This document cameras have been used in some of our classroom, a lot of our classrooms. And Julie Flack, one of the integrationists, brought forward the idea after talking with staff of purchasing some additional, with the ability to purchase a few additional document cameras, mainly for the high school and junior high, 10 for each building to start with. These are Elmo document cameras. They talked about having the same model, or the model that we have on a lot of them is discontinued, but this is a very similar model. And the quote was put in the packet for you, is about $393 a piece. And that'd be for 20 of them. So the committee is recommending to go ahead and approve the document camera purchase, and that cost is $7,851.80.
And Elmo is a brand name.
Yes, I'm sorry. Don't think a little tickle me.
Is there any questions regarding that? And hearing none, we'd need a motion to approve the document camera purchase at a cost of $7,851.80.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Robin, is there a second?
I'll second that.
Second, Brad. Roll call.
Brad,
Yes.
Jill,
Yes.
Jane, yes. Steve,
Yes.
Angie,
Yes.
Robin.
Yes.
Moving on to 1% sales tax.
Last month was brought up about the 1% sales tax. I reached out to the other districts in the county, as that's a countywide initiative. Feedback that I shared with you in the packet is just at this time, in the situation that everyone's in regards to what's on the ballot in November, that the consensus is that I think there's a lot of interest there. Just the timing is not for other districts to come out in full support of that. I don't want to put words in their mouth. So, but that's kind of my synopsis of the feedback. So with that, it's something that this district has supported and led in the last couple times. and maybe something we want to look at as a district in the future. But from if the board wants to, I guess we could move forward, but it would help if we had a unified front on that point. But so I guess my recommendation is that at this time not to move forward, and kind of evaluate that as we move forward in the future.
Is there any questions or comments? None? Okay, so we will just evaluate that in the future at a better time. So we'll go ahead and move on to our back to school plan update.
I just wanted to, we updated it on August 7th after talking to the health department, and in fact, we'll have another update here. We have a meeting Wednesday again, and then we're having also the health department come in on Thursday morning to meet with principals. One of the big items that I think I've shared before is how do our buildings handle when students or staff have COVID-like symptoms. And so we had a meeting last Wednesday. We're provided a draft because some schools are starting. And so health department wanted to get something out. But then that night, Wednesday night or early Thursday, IDPH actually came out with some guidance. Now it's the idea of implementing the guidance. And that's what we need from the local health department, because there's questions, clarifications. We want to make sure that we're all doing it the same in our district. I don't know about the others, but they've already started. But the idea is one or more symptom could cause a staff or student to be sent home. And as I mentioned last meeting or last month, that could be possibly require a doctor's visit, which could get costly and for our parents and families. And just trying to be upfront with people about that these are the guidance that we'll need to follow moving forward. So I'll keep the board informed. We have a meeting again Wednesday and then Thursday morning with finalized on that. And hopefully we'll get that ready to go for next Wednesday as our first day for students. But other than that, I just wanted to keep it on there every month, every meeting. So things are changing, as I said before, we're planning to start, and I've heard a lot of positives about planning to start. Hopefully, also our numbers have gone up dramatically in our county. So hopefully we can all make some good choices in regards to being safe, washing hands, wearing masks, trying to keep social distance. And sometimes we forget how to do that, but that's old habits we gotta break. So I'll be open to any questions. I just wanted to make sure it was on here, and I'll hand these out. These are the ones that are on the website, but I want to make a hard copy for everybody just so if they wanted them.
Any questions regarding back to school update? No? Okay. We will go ahead and move on to opportunity for sharing by the board. Is there anybody who had anything they want to share?
I do. I went on a tour this morning at the junior high, and Mr. Fox took me on a tour. Boy, was I amazed. It is, my regret is that the whole town can't go in and look at it right now because of, the COVID situation. We can't have a huge open house because for those people that remember it, as I remembered it, having gone to high school there, having taught there when it was still Effingham High School, it has just been an unbelievable change. And I was just so excited to see everything that's been done. So.
We have one more year. Well,
I know,
actually,
I know.
let me rephrase that. We have one more planned year.
Yeah.
There's always a phase 4. And so we've already got things on phase 4 that we'll have to bring back to the board in the future and to try to get things that you miss. And it would be nice to do that. Remember, we didn't do any of the entrances and all that. So we probably need to paint, the building and there's all sorts of things. So just like a house, right? But I appreciate that. I know that, the staff over there have worked hard, the cleaning staff, the custodial maintenance and, other cleaning staff from other buildings have come over Jason spent a lot of time there. The administration there as well, working around the mess and everything else. It went a lot smoother than it did the year before. And so next year, the idea is the south end. There's still some things we need to clean up in the gym, some doors, outside doors. We just ran out of time, but the south end, all those windows, the heat and air, that they're still on air conditioners, right?
Window air conditioner.
For another year, and then we'll move on to a new system. But yeah, it looks a lot different.
Oh, yes, unbelievable.
Anyone else?
I just want to take a minute, and I want to thank our administrators and our staff. I'm going to leave somebody out, and I apologize, but the amount of training that's going on and staff that are coming back, starting, getting some training and working, and the central office staff and the building staff putting in extra hours, and I don't think I just want to make sure people are aware of that, and I know the board is, and the board has been appreciative of that, but want to make sure we take a minute to do that, because it's not easy, not knowing what, we make a decision and then it could change in the next 48 hours. So, but everybody's kind of worked through that. We're going to hit some speed bumps along the way. I'm sure we will. But again, our basis was trying to keep as much normalcy as possible in a non-normal situation. And so that's been our goal.
Thank you. Okay, moving on, we would need a motion to enter into closed session for the appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees of the district, collective negotiating matters between the district and its employees or their representatives, or deliberations concerning salary schedules for one or more classes of employees, student disciplinary cases, litigation when an action against, affecting, or on behalf of a particular district has been filed and is pending before a court or administrative tribunal, or when the district finds that an action is probable or imminent, in which case the basis for the finding shall be recorded and entered into closed meeting minutes.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Steve. Do we have a second?
A second.
Second, Robin. Roll call.
Jill?
Yes.
Jane, yes. Steve?
Yes.
Angie?
Yes.
Robin?
Yes.
Brad?
Yes.
At this time, we'll be going into closed session and we will return shortly.